By the time the string quartet reached the soft part of the song, the estate in Greenwich looked like a magazine spread. White tents on the lawn, chandeliers hanging from the beams, waiters gliding through the crowd with champagne. 200 guests, all polished and powerful, stood facing the terrace where Elizabeth Richardson held the microphone like she owned the sky. Family legacy responsibility, she said, her voice smooth and trained. In this world, the choices we make echo through generations. The crowd hummed in agreement. At her right shoulder, Marcus stood in a tailored navy suit, jaw tight, eyes on the gravel at his feet. On her left, his wife, Rebecca, smiled the careful smile she used at charity galas and fertility clinics. Elizabeth turned, resting a manicured hand on Rebecca's arm. "Some blessings take time," she said lightly. "I know my son and his wonderful wife will give this family the grandchildren it deserves." Laughter rippled across the lawn. Marcus felt it like glass in his throat. He took a slow breath, staring past the tents toward the tree line, wishing he were anywhere else. That was when he heard it. A low thrum at first, almost part of the music, then louder, closer, until the violinist stopped mid-note and looked up. Conversation died. Heads tilted back. Above the manicured oaks, a black helicopter cut across the blue June sky and began to descend. "You've got to be kidding me," someone muttered. Wind tore across the lawn as it hovered, sending napkins flying, snapping tablecloths, whipping silk dresses around expensively tanned legs. Waiters shielded their trays. Elizabeth's hair, sprayed into submission an hour ago, fought for its life. The helicopter settled right in the center of the grass, blades winding down. For a beat, no one moved. The door slid open. She stepped out first. A black woman in a white designer dress, curls loose around her shoulders, heels sinking slightly into the Richardson lawn like she belonged there. Destiny Williams did not look at the crowd. She looked straight at the terrace. Behind her, 3 small figures climbed carefully down. 2 boys in matching navy suits, 1 little girl in a white dress that mirrored Destiny's. Light brown skin, dark curls, 3 pairs of unmistakable green eyes. Marcus's green eyes. A murmur rolled through the guests. Someone actually gasped. Rebecca's fingers tightened around the stem of her glass. Destiny started walking. The children followed, hands linked, shoes dampening in the perfect grass. When she reached the edge of the gathered crowd, she stopped, lifted her chin, and spoke clearly, her voice carrying without a microphone. "Happy birthday, Mrs. Richardson." The name hit Marcus like a punch. His heart stumbled. He forgot how to breathe. On the terrace, Elizabeth froze. For a second, she looked almost confused, as if her past had walked out of a memory and onto her front lawn. Then the little girl looked up, spotted Marcus standing there in his perfect suit, and her whole face lit up. "Daddy." It was not a question. It was a scream of pure joy that sliced through the stunned silence. All 3 children let go of each other and ran, feet pounding up the stone steps toward him. Marcus did not move, could not move. They collided with his legs, tiny arms wrapping around him like they had been doing it their whole lives. "Daddy, we found you." One of the boys laughed, breathless, against his waist. Rebecca's champagne glass slipped from her hand and exploded against the patio, jarred, skittering across the stone. No one even flinched. Every eye was on Marcus and the 3 little bodies clinging to him. Elizabeth's hand flew to her chest. Color drained from her face as she stared at the children, at their features, at the way Marcus's hands shook when he finally touched their hair. Destiny climbed the steps with unhurried grace, stopping a few feet away. The wind tugged at her dress, at the curls around her face, but her gaze was steady. "Those children," she said quietly, but the whole lawn heard it. "They are your only grandchildren." She let the words land, watched them shatter whatever story Elizabeth had been telling herself for 6 years. Then Destiny added, with the smallest, devastating smile, "And they are half black." 6 years earlier, the house was quieter, but the study felt just as suffocating. Marcus sat on the edge of the leather chair in his mother's office, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tight his knuckles were white. Mahogany walls, oil paintings of dead white men, shelves of leather-bound books, a room built to intimidate. Elizabeth Richardson stood at the window, looking out over the same lawn that would one day hold her 60th birthday party. She did not turn around when she spoke. "I had Harrison look into it." Marcus frowned. Harrison was not a friend. Harrison was the private investigator she used when she wanted the truth without doing the dirty work herself. Look into what, Mother? Now she turned. Cream-colored suit, pearls, hair pulled back tight enough to shine. Her expression was almost bored. Into who you have been spending your weekends with. This Destiny Williams. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck. He had never said Destiny's last name in this room. He had never dared. How long have you known? He asked. Long enough. Long enough to know she is a lawyer. Harvard Law. Atlanta born. Raised in a world that is not ours. 2 years. He stood up. Somehow it felt less humiliating if he was not looking up at her. I was going to tell you, he said. Destiny is smart. She is kind. She works harder than anyone I know. She understands things about the law, about justice, that most people in our circle only pretend to care about. I love her. Elizabeth watched him like a surgeon studying a chart. Love, she repeated, like it was a childish word. You think love will protect you when the board questions your judgment. You think love will keep this family's name off the wrong kind of headlines. She stepped closer, eyes locked on his. My son will never marry a black woman. Not while I am alive. The word hung there. Black. It was not a description. It was a verdict. Marcus felt something twist in his stomach. You cannot say that, he whispered. It is not the 1950s. I can say whatever I must to protect what your father and I built, she replied. If you marry her, you are cut off. No position at Richardson Investment Group, no trust fund, no stake in this estate. You walk away from this family and you do it without a safety net. Do you understand me? He thought of the office with his name on the glass. The deals he was about to close. The invitations that came because of the name Richardson, not because of Marcus. He thought of every story he had ever heard about people who fell out of favor in their world and how fast doors closed. In his head, James Carter's voice came back to him from a bar in New Haven years ago. Man, your mom does not just run a family. She runs a regime. Another voice layered over it. Old Mr. Lawson, the house manager who had worked for the Richardsons since before Marcus was born, lowering his voice one evening when Marcus came home late from Yale. A life built on fear never ends well, kid. He had heard the warnings. He had nodded, even laughed them off. My mother always knows what she is doing, he had told James back then. Now he stood in front of her and tried to believe that was still true. What if I keep working? What if I stay here and we just figure this out slowly, he said. You have not met her. You do not know her. Maybe if you did, Elizabeth shook her head once. You are not listening. There is no middle ground here. End it, or I end everything you take for granted. His chest tightened. He imagined Destiny's laugh, the way her eyes lit up when she argued a case even over dinner. He also imagined walking into the firm on Monday and being told his badge no longer worked. Imagined being whispered about in rooms like this one, not as the golden son, but as the one who blew up a legacy. He nodded slowly, more to the floor than to her. I just need some time, he said, to think, to make sure I do this the right way. You have 1 week, Elizabeth answered, then sat back behind her desk, already reaching for a file, already done with the conversation. Outside, in the wide hallway, Marcus exhaled like he had been underwater. He pressed his palm against the cool paneled wall and told himself he could still fix this. If I am careful, he thought, if I handle this exactly right, I can keep my job, keep my place in this family, and still keep Destiny. I just have to be smart. In the study behind him, Elizabeth picked up her phone and dialed a number from memory. Hello, Richard, she said when a man answered. It is Elizabeth. If my son ever comes to you looking for a position outside the firm, tell him you would be honored to interview him, and then do not return his calls. If he chooses wrong, make sure no respectable firm touches him. She hung up, smoothed the front of her suit, and glanced once more at the lawn. Marcus walked away from the office, clinging to the idea that playing by her rules would somehow keep him safe. He had no idea the game had been rigged long before he ever learned the rules. The lights of Midtown glittered outside Marcus's floor-to-ceiling windows, but inside his Manhattan apartment, everything was still. He sat on the edge of the couch in his dress shirt and loosened tie, phone in his hand, thumb hovering over one name, Destiny. His palms were so slick he almost dropped it. Just call, he told himself. Be a man. Tell her the truth. He swallowed hard, and his mind did what minds do when they are desperate to avoid pain. It ran backwards. He was back at that charity gala in Manhattan, the one for criminal justice reform that everyone attended for the photos, not the cause. Crystal chandeliers, rented compassion, donors in tuxes bragging about their foundations. He had been hiding near the bar, nursing a drink and a headache, when he heard a laugh that did not fit the room. Warm, unpolished, real. He turned. She stood in a simple black dress, curls framing her face, hands moving as she talked to a small circle of lawyers. A black woman in a space that still treated that as decoration. The system was never designed to be fair, she was saying. It was designed to be efficient. And efficient for whom is always the question. Someone tried to argue that the courts were slowly improving. She rolled her eyes. Tell that to the kids in Atlanta who get public defenders with 200 cases. Tell that to my cousin who sat in county jail for 3 months on a charge that would have gotten you a summons. Later, when he finally worked up the nerve to walk over, he introduced himself. I am Marcus. She shook his hand without looking impressed by his last name. Destiny. Are you hiding from the terrible music or the terrible small talk? Both, he admitted. She grinned. Good, come on. I know a place in the West Village where the pasta is better and nobody pretends to care about things they do not. They left the gala and talked for 4 hours at a tiny Italian restaurant. About Harvard Law and Atlanta, about his father's death, and how trapped he felt in a life other people had chosen for him. With her, he had not felt like the heir to anything. He had just been a man. Then there were the weekends in Cape Cod, her hair tangled by ocean wind, barefoot in the sand, arguing about plea deals and pro bono work. For the first time in his 30 years, Marcus Richardson had felt like himself. And now he was about to end it with a phone call. He hit dial. She picked up on the second ring, breathless and smiling. Marcus, I was just about to text you. Are we still on for tomorrow night? I found a new spot in Brooklyn you are going to love. He squeezed his eyes shut. I cannot do this anymore, he blurted. There was a beat of silence. Do what she sounded more confused than hurt. Work late. We can move dinner. This. Us, he said. I cannot do it. What are you talking about? Destiny's voice sharpened. Did something happen? Is your mother? There is nothing to fix. He cut in. I just do not want this anymore. The words came out flat and ugly, not even matching what he felt. They tasted like poison. You do not want this. She sounded like she was trying to understand a language she had never heard before. Marcus, look, if you are upset about something, come over. We can talk in person. That is what adults do. We talk. We work it out. He pictured her apartment, the couch where he had fallen asleep with her feet in his lap, the mug she always burned her tongue on because she would not wait for her coffee to cool. He almost said yes. Instead, he stared at the rug and heard his mother's voice in his head. End it or I end everything for you. No, he said. There is nothing to talk about. I am sorry. She was quiet for a long second. You are lying, she said softly. I do this for a living. Remember, I know when someone is lying. What did she say to you? He flinched. This is my decision, he insisted. I do not want this. I do not want you. I am sorry. Her breath hitched. For a moment he thought she might cry, but her voice came back steady, wounded steel. Fine. If you are going to throw away what we have, at least have the decency to say it to my face. I am not a mistake you erase over the phone. He could feel his throat closing. If he saw her, if he went there, he knew he would cave. He would choose her and lose everything else. I cannot, he whispered. I have to go. Goodbye, Destiny. Marcus, do not you dare hang up on me. Marcus, listen to me. Marcus, I need to tell you something. It is important. Please do not. He hung up. The apartment went impossibly quiet. He stared at the black screen, his own reflection staring back, eyes wide and wild. Then he powered the phone down and dropped it on the coffee table like it might burn him. For a minute, he sat there straight-backed, jaw clenched, pretending he had done something necessary, adult, rational. Then he slid off the couch and onto the hardwood floor, and his body finally caught up to what his mind had done. He pressed his fist to his eyes and sobbed. Big, ugly, gasping sobs that shook his chest and scraped his throat raw. He cried until his shirt was wet and his face ached, until the city outside the window traded neon for first light. When the sun rose over Manhattan, Destiny was still gone. The words were still said. The phone was still off. And Marcus was still a coward. He showered, put on a suit, and drove out to Greenwich. By noon, he was sitting in the back seat of a black town car while the driver pulled into the circular driveway of the estate. His tie was perfect. His eyes were red, but Elizabeth would never acknowledge it. Inside the country club dining room, his mother waited at a table laid for 4. Across from her sat another couple, familiar faces from the Connecticut social pages. Between them, a blonde woman around his age with careful posture and a polite smile. "Marcus," Elizabeth said smoothly, as if last night had been a scheduling call and not the breaking of his own heart. "This is the Hart family. This is Rebecca. She just moved back from Paris, studied art history at Yale. You two have so much in common." He kissed his mother's cheek, shook hands, took his seat, and played his part. He thought the worst was over. He had no idea the real damage had not even begun. The first test had to be wrong. Destiny sat on the cold tile of her New York bathroom floor back against the cabinet, 3 plastic sticks lined up on the bath mat in front of her. All 3 showed the same thing. 2 pink lines, 2 pink lines, 2 pink lines. She wrapped her arms around her knees and pressed her forehead down. Her heart was pounding so loud she could hear it in her ears. "No," she whispered to the empty apartment. "Not like this. Not now." 2 weeks earlier, Marcus had told her over the phone that he did not want her anymore. He had done it with that flat voice that did not sound like him at all, then hung up before she could drag the truth out of him. She had slept maybe 8 hours total since. Every time her phone buzzed, she hoped it never was him. She picked up the first test again and stared at it, as if the lines might fade if she looked hard enough. "Okay," she said to herself, voice shaking. "Okay, call him, tell him, then figure it out." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She dialed his number from muscle memory. It rang 5 times and went to voicemail. "You have reached Marcus Richardson." She closed her eyes. At the beep, she blurted, "Marcus, it is me. Please call me back. I need to talk to you. It is important." She hung up and waited. An hour. 2. No call. She tried again. That night. Straight to voicemail this time. "Marcus, I am not trying to fight. Please. 5 minutes. That is all I am asking. Something happened. I need you to call me." She called in the morning, at lunch, after work. Each time, his voice on the recording sounded like a stranger. Each time, the beep came faster. On the 6th call, she said, "Marcus, I am scared. I feel sick all the time. I think I know why. I need you, please." On the 10th, her voice cracked. "I do not know what you are doing or why you will not talk to me. But this is not just about you anymore. You do not get to disappear." On the 20th, she sat on her couch with her free hand on her stomach and forced the words out slowly so she would not sob through them. "I am pregnant. I am pretty sure it is yours." "No." She stopped, corrected herself. "It is yours. I am going to the doctor tomorrow. I do not know how far along. I just know there is a baby. Maybe more. I tried to tell you. Remember that. I tried." She ended the call and held the phone in her lap. For 3 days, she refused to delete the voicemail she left, as if that might keep the connection alive somehow. Marcus never called back. The following week, she sat on crinkly paper in a gown that did not close properly, feet in stirrups, staring at the ultrasound screen beside her. The tech slid the wand over her belly, squinting. "Any nausea lately?" the woman asked. "A little," Destiny answered. "Any twins in your family?" Destiny frowned. "My mom had brothers. No twins that I know of." "Why?" The tech did not answer. She adjusted the angle, leaned closer and smiled in a way Destiny did not know how to read. "Well, Miss Williams," she said, "you were not expecting this." She turned the screen slightly. Destiny saw gray and black shapes, static and shadows, until the tech pointed. "Here, that is 1, and here is another, and over here, that is 3. And those flickers, those are heartbeats. 3. The word hollowed Destiny out and filled her up at the same time. "Triplets," the text said. "Congratulations." Destiny laughed, a wet, choked sound, and then she was crying and laughing at once. 3 babies. 3 whole lives. All inside her while she sat in a paper gown with no one holding her hand. Later, she sat in the waiting room clutching a folder of prenatal instructions, surrounded by couples. White husbands in button-downs, black husbands in hoodies, wives leaning into them. Every other chair held a pair. Destiny sat alone. Her phone lay face up in her lap. No missed calls. She took a breath, scrolled to a different contact, and hit call. Angela picked up on the first ring. "What is wrong? You sound like you have been crying for 3 days." Destiny tried to speak, but it came out as a hiccup of a laugh. "I am pregnant," she said, "with triplets." Silence. Then Angela said, "Okay, I am booking a flight." "Angie, you do not have to shut up," Angela cut in. "You are my big sister. You are having 3 babies by yourself in New York. And the man who helped make them went ghost. You are not doing this alone. I will be there by Friday." True to her word, Angela showed up at LaGuardia with a carry-on and a look that would have scared any man who tried to get in her way. She hugged Destiny so tight in the arrivals lane that Destiny finally let herself sob into someone's shoulder. They sat up that night in Destiny's tiny living room, empty takeout containers on the coffee table, ultrasound photos between them. "You cannot stay in this city," Angela said. "Not like this. It is killing you." "It is my life," Des protested. "My job, my cases, everything I have worked for. You got that offer in Boston, remember? The firm that begged you to join last year. Morrison and Associates," Destiny said slowly. "I only turned it down because Marcus wanted to stay in New York." Angela raised an eyebrow. "Exactly. Call them. See if the offer is still open. Start over somewhere he has never promised you anything." The next morning, Destiny called the Boston number with shaking hands. The senior partner remembered her immediately. "Miss Williams, of course. We were disappointed when you said no. Are you reconsidering?" "Yes," she said. "I'm available in about 2 months." "I should tell you I am pregnant. With triplets." There was a pause. Then, to her surprise, the man chuckled. "Anyone who can get through Harvard Law can get through anything. We will make it work. Welcome to Morrison and Associates." 2 months later, a moving truck idled outside her building. Destiny's belly had grown enough that she moved carefully, one hand always resting at the top of the curve. Angela directed the movers like a foreman, loading boxes labeled kitchen, books, law files. New York blurred in the rear view as they crossed the bridge into Massachusetts. Destiny watched the skyline shrink and tried not to think about all the versions of her life that would never happen now. They found a walk-up in the South End, 3rd floor, 2 bedrooms, scuffed wood floors, and big windows that let in the late autumn light. It was not fancy, but it was theirs. Angela claimed the smaller bedroom and immediately started assembling furniture in the second. "We need 3 cribs," she announced. "Not 1, not 2, 3. No one is sleeping in a drawer in this house." They painted the walls a soft yellow that made the room feel like morning, even after dark. Destiny leaned against the door frame, watching Angela fuss with tiny fitted sheets, and for the first time since the bathroom floor in New York, she felt something like hope. That night, when the apartment finally went quiet, Destiny stood alone at the nursery door. 3 empty cribs sat in a row, like open hands. She rested her palm on her belly where 3 small lives turned and kicked. "I will never run from you the way your father did," she whispered. "You deserve better than that. You will get better than that." Months later, on a bitter December morning at Boston Medical Center, her body proved exactly how much it could hold and how much it could break. Labor stretched into hour after hour of pain that came in waves, stealing her breath, and then leaving her floating in the space between. Angela was there, hair in a scarf, whispering encouragement, cursing under her breath when the contractions hit. Nurses moved like a practiced dance. The doctor kept his voice calm. "One more push, Miss Williams. You are right there. You are doing so well." When Cameron finally arrived, Destiny heard his cry and thought her heart might split apart. Caleb came next, stubborn and loud. Chloe followed, the smallest of the 3, but with a scream that filled the room. In the end, a nurse placed all 3 of them on her chest. Warm, damp, squirming. 3 tiny hearts beating against her ribs. 3 sets of fingers flexing in the bright hospital light. Destiny looked down at them and felt a wave of love so fierce it scared her. "Hey," she whispered, tears sliding into her hairline. "Hi, Cameron. Hi, Caleb. Hi, Chloe." She kissed each damp forehead, her voice breaking. "Your father walked away from us. I will not, ever." Outside, Boston snow began to fall against the hospital windows. Inside, a woman who had been left behind held the first pieces of a future that did not include the Richardson name at all. She did not know yet how hard it would be. She only knew this: She was still here, and they were not alone. 5 years slid by, smooth on the outside, jagged underneath. From a distance, Marcus Richardson's life looked like every mother on the main line's dream. He had married well. Rebecca Hart Richardson, blonde and tasteful, from a family that knew which forks to use and which schools to donate to. They lived in a white shingled house in Greenwich that Elizabeth had purchased as a wedding gift, a stone-walled driveway, and a view of the water included. Inside, it was quiet. They started in the same bedroom. By their second anniversary, Rebecca had moved down the hall. "You snore," she said lightly, as if that were the whole story. "I sleep better in the guest room." They were polite with each other. They shared calendars, not secrets. She knew his coffee order, not his fears. He knew her favorite flowers, not what she stayed up thinking about at night. Every month came with a new calculation, ovulation tests, fertility apps. Quiet hope they hardly spoke aloud. When nothing happened, they went to doctors. Manhattan specialists with degrees framed on the walls. They took blood. They measured hormone levels. They did ultrasounds and awkward questions. Medically, nothing is wrong, the first doctor said, hands folded. Your tests are textbook. Sometimes stress or something emotional can stand in the way. Stress, Marcus repeated in the elevator afterward. Rebecca stared straight ahead. When they say emotional, they mean the part of you refuse to talk about, she said. The part that sits in that office at 2 a.m. The part that keeps you from looking at yourself in the mirror. He did not answer. They tried another clinic, then another. They got the same answer. On Sundays, they drove to the estate for dinner. One evening, roast chicken on the table and silver polished to a mirror, Elizabeth dabbed her mouth with a linen napkin and smiled at Rebecca. "You know, Margaret's daughter just had twins," she said. Poor girl was 34 and terrified her body had given up on her. But it worked out. "You are, 32 now? Dear, history shows this is not the age to drag one's feet." Rebecca's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. She set it down carefully. "We are trying, Elizabeth," she said. "Trying is not good enough," Elizabeth replied. "Other families have grandchildren. My friends do not need to wait this long. Perhaps if you focused less on those art projects and more on mother," Marcus snapped. The word came out sharper than he intended. Both women looked at him. "You are being cruel," he said. "I am being honest," Elizabeth countered. "If you two cannot give this family a future, perhaps we need to reassess priorities. We have a name to protect. A legacy. We have been trying for 5 years," Marcus said, his voice rising. "We have seen 5 different doctors. They all say nothing is wrong. Maybe the problem is not Rebecca. Maybe the problem is this family." The air went thin. Rebecca's eyes shone, but she blinked hard, swallowing whatever she wanted to say. Marcus pushed back his chair. "I am done for tonight," he muttered, dropping his napkin on the plate. "Enjoy your legacy, mother." He left through the side door, barely registering the cold night air as he pulled out of the gravel drive and headed for Stamford. He found a bar near the office, dark and anonymous, and slid onto a stool. "Whiskey," he told the bartender. "Neat." The first drink went down fast, the second slower. By the third, his phone was in his hand again, thumb swiping through contacts that no longer held the name he could not forget. He did not have to look it up. He could have dialed it in his sleep. 7 digits, then 3 more. It glowed on the screen, waiting for his thumb to hit call. If she answers, what you apologize. You tell her you chose wrong. You tell her you are miserable in the house your mother bought. For a second, he could see it. Destiny picking up. That familiar sharpness in her hello softening when she recognized his voice. Marcus deleted the numbers one by one until the screen was blank. Then he locked the phone and ordered another drink. On another side of the same coast, a different life was growing louder. Boston woke early. Destiny woke earlier. 5 years after the triplets were born, she had made partner at Morrison and Associates. Her name on the glass next to men who had never changed a diaper in their lives. She had traded the walk-up for a brownstone in the South End. 4 stories, brick front, a narrow patch of backyard where 3 pairs of small shoes left muddy prints every spring. The firm had sent flowers when she closed her first $1 million case. Angela had sent a text. "Told you, Harvard brain plus Atlanta spine. Unstoppable." The home was full of pictures. First birthday parties, 3 high chairs in a row. Halloween costumes, one dinosaur, one astronaut, one ballerina. First day of school, backpacks too big for their shoulders. In every frame, there was Destiny. Sometimes Angela. Never a father. One night, when the city outside had gone quiet and the triplets were supposed to be asleep, Destiny felt a small presence by her bedroom door. Mom. She looked up from the brief she was reading. Cameron stood there in Spider-Man pajamas, eyes serious in the half-light. Hey, baby, you are supposed to be asleep. He came in and climbed onto the bed, sitting cross-legged. Can I ask you something? Sure. Where is our dad? The question did not land like a surprise. It landed like a train she had seen coming for years. Destiny put the papers aside and turned to face him. Your dad loved me, she said slowly, but he was not strong enough to stay. That is on him, not on you. You are not missing anything inside you because of what he did. Did he see us and then leave? Cameron asked. Or did he leave before we came? He left before, she said. You never did anything wrong. He made his choice. That is his burden to carry. Cameron looked down at his hands. Everyone at school has a dad that picks them up, he said, or a stepdad, or somebody. We just have you and Aunt Angela. She tilted his chin up gently. Some kids have two parents. Some kids have one. Some kids have grandparents, or uncles, or foster parents. Families look all kinds of ways. The important part is that the people in it show up and love you right. He nodded, not fully convinced but too tired to argue. She tucked him back into bed, kissed his forehead, and waited until his breathing evened out. The next afternoon, Chloe found her in the home office. Mom, do you have a picture of him? Destiny hesitated, then went to her bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of her nightstand. Under a stack of law journals and a sweatshirt, there was a single photo. Marcus on a beach in Cape Cod, hair messy from the wind, eyes bright, laughing at something she had said just before the shutter clicked. She sat on the couch and motioned for all three kids. Cameron on her right, Caleb on her left, Chloe wedged between her knees on the floor. This is your father, she said. His name is Marcus. The room went quiet. 3 sets of eyes studied the face in the photo like a clue in a mystery. He has my nose, Caleb declared. Chloe lifted a fingertip to the glossy surface, tracing the eyes. He has my eyes, she whispered. Destiny's throat tightened. He did, and the knowledge hurt in a way she had never found words for. That night, after story time and teeth brushing and one more glass of water, Chloe stood beside her bed, curl crushed flat against her cheek. Mom, what, baby? Why does he not love us? Destiny's chest actually ached. Who told you that he has never come? Chloe said. Not once. If he loved us, he would have at least come see us. Maybe we did something wrong. Destiny gathered her into her arms. You did nothing wrong. Do you hear me? Nothing. Adults make choices that hurt people sometimes. That is on them. He does not know you. If he knew you, he would love you like crazy. Then why does he not want to know us? Chloe's voice cracked on the last word. Destiny held her until her body went heavy with sleep, small fist still bunched in Destiny's shirt. Later, when the house was quiet, Destiny sat in the living room with Angela, the two of them framed by stacks of case files and toy bins. The TV flashed silently in the background. It is not about him anymore, Destiny said, staring at the dark window where her own reflection looked back. It is about them. They deserve more than my half answers and his silence. Angela watched her. What are you thinking? I am thinking there is a man in Connecticut who gets to pretend my kids do not exist, Destiny replied. And 3 kids in Boston who cry at night because they think they are unlovable. I am thinking that is a balance I cannot live with. Angela leaned forward. So what do you want to do? Destiny exhaled. I want to find him, not because I need him. Those days are over, but they deserve to see his face, to hear whatever pathetic explanation he has, and then decide for themselves what to do with that. I will not let him and his mother keep writing this story for us. The next day, she sat in a small coffee shop downtown across from a man in his 50s with a lined face and sharp eyes. He slid a business card across the table. Thomas Gray, Private Investigations. She pushed a folder toward him. Inside was everything she had. Old photos, the bits of family background she had pieced together, the name of the firm in Connecticut. I need you to find Marcus Richardson, she said. He is the father of my children. He does not know they exist, at least not because of me. I tried to tell him. He blocked my calls. Now my children are asking questions. They deserve to meet their father, or at least know who he really is." Thomas nodded slowly. "Men from families like his do not realize how visible they are," he said. "Board appointments, property records, society pages. He will not be hard to find. The hard part will be what you want to do when I bring you the information." "I already know what I want to do," Destiny said. "I just need to know where to show up." 2 weeks later, they met again at the same table. Thomas had a thicker folder now. "He lives in Stamford," he began. 32nd floor of a building with his family's name on it. Still works at Richardson Investment Group. Makes more money in a year than most folks will see in 10. Married a woman named Rebecca Hart 5 months after your relationship ended. No children." Destiny's jaw clenched. 5 months. "Did you find out why he left the way he did?" she asked. Thomas looked at his notes. "House staff talk," he said. "Your name came up. A black lawyer from New York. His mother did not approve. Gave him a choice between you and his inheritance. He chose what you would expect someone raised in that world to choose." Destiny sat very still. She had suspected. Hearing it out loud still felt like being punched. "There is one more thing," Thomas added. "His mother, Elizabeth, is turning 60 this year. There is a permit application on file with the town of Greenwich. Big party at the estate. Tents, catering, security. 200 guests expected. 3 months from now." He slid a copy of the permit across the table. Date, time, address she knew by heart from stories Marcus used to tell about his childhood. Destiny stared at the page. For a moment, the coffee shop noise faded. She saw the estate in her mind, the long driveway, the manicured lawn, the woman who had looked at her son and decided an entire group of people made him unfit. She looked up at Thomas. "Thank you," she said. "This is exactly what I needed." That night, at home, she spread the paperwork out on the dining table. Angela picked up one of the sheets, scanning it. "They are throwing her a whole coronation," Angela muttered. 200 of her closest enablers. Destiny tapped the permit with her fingertip. "He took my choice away years ago," she said quietly. "Hung up the phone and decided for both of us. I will not let him or his mother take our children's choice too." Angela looked at her sister's face and saw something she had not seen in a long time. Not anger, not heartbreak. Resolve. People watching her in that moment would feel it too. The sense that something had just shifted, that a reckoning was moving into place. And somewhere in Greenwich, the Richardsons had no idea what was already on its way to their perfect lawn. The first time the guests heard the helicopter, they thought it was part of the show. Of course Elizabeth would hire one of those. A woman in pearls whispered, shading her eyes as she stepped out from under the tent. A dramatic entrance for some donor. Very on brand. The quartet trailed off one instrument at a time. Waiters stood still with trays in midair. On the terrace, Rebecca moved closer to Marcus and his mother, squinting toward the sky as the black shape dipped lower over the tree line. "This is ridiculous," Rebecca said, half amused. "Who needs to arrive like that?" Then the helicopter dropped low enough that the wind hit. Tablecloths snapped, napkins spun across the lawn, hats and carefully sprayed hair fought for survival. Someone yelped when champagne sloshed onto a silk dress. The machine settled in the center of the grass. For a long breath, nothing happened. Then the door slid open. Destiny stepped down first, one hand braced on the frame, white dress snapping around her legs. She did not flinch at the wind or the eyes. Her gaze went straight to the terrace. Behind her, 3 small bodies climbed out with the pilot's help. 2 boys in navy suits, 1 girl in white. They clung to each other for a second, then straightened, scanning the crowd like children who had practiced for this. Marcus, beside his mother, felt reality tilt. His fingers went numb on the railing. Rebecca followed his stare. She saw the woman in white, the hair, the skin, the way something on Marcus's face broke open and then shut down again. "Who is that?" she asked. He did not answer. The children started forward, hands linked, shoes sinking slightly into the perfect lawn. The little girl glanced up as they neared, eyes flicking over 100 strange faces until they landed on Marcus. Her whole body lit up. "Daddy." The word cracked the silence clean in half. All 3 dropped each other's hands and ran. Down the slope, up the stone steps, straight to the man in the tailored suit they had only ever known in stories and drawings. They hit his legs with enough force to knock him back a step. "Daddy, we found you," one boy said, arms wrapped tight around Marcus's knee. "You were not at any of the places we looked," the other added, muffled against his thigh. Marcus's body moved before his mind could. His knees buckled. He dropped down to their level, hands hovering over small shoulders, cheeks, curls. 3 faces stared back at him, 3 sets of green eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. He felt the patio rock beneath him. His chest hurt. Something inside him that had been locked down for 6 years blew apart. On his left, glass slipped from Rebecca's hand and shattered on the stone. The sound was louder than it should have been. She stared at the children, then at Marcus. "How old are they?" she asked, voice barely there. Marcus tried to speak. His mouth was dry. "5, he managed. "5, Rebecca repeated. "We have been married for 5 years. The math did itself. She flinched as if someone had slapped her. Betrayal flooded her face, not just for the affair that must have happened before their wedding, but for every tear she had cried over negative pregnancy tests while he already had 3 children in the world. On the terrace, Elizabeth was very still. Her eyes bounced from Marcus to the children, to the woman now making her way up the steps. Destiny reached the top and stopped a few feet away. The wind tugged at her curls, but her voice was steady. "Happy birthday, Mrs. Richardson." No one laughed this time. Angela moved up quietly behind Destiny and placed a hand on Chloe's shoulder. "Kids," Destiny said gently, looking at the 3 small bodies wrapped around Marcus. "Why do you not go stand with Aunt Angela for a minute?" "Do we have to?" Chloe asked. "Just for a minute, baby. Your dad is not going anywhere." Reluctantly, they loosened their hold and shuffled back to Angela's side. All 3 kept their eyes pinned to Marcus, as if afraid he might vanish if they blinked. Once they were out of earshot, Destiny faced Marcus fully. "I called you 20 times, she said. Her voice was low, but it carried. "I told you I was pregnant. I told you something important had happened. You blocked my number." Marcus swallowed. His mind flashed to the bathroom floor, the paper gowns, the voicemails he never heard. He had told himself for years that the ending had been clean. A bad chapter closed. Now that lie lay in pieces at his feet. "I did not know," he said. "I swear I did not know." She watched him, eyes dark and unreadable. "If you had known," she asked, "if you had listened, would it have changed anything? Would you have chosen us? Or would you have married her anyway and pretended we never existed?" The right answer sat there, obvious and heroic. He could feel 200 strangers willing him to grab it. He started, closed his eyes, opened them again. "I do not know." There it was. The real him, not the story he liked to tell himself. The man who had been so afraid of losing his comfort that he could not even promise he would have done better with all the information. Destiny's jaw tightened, but she nodded as if he had simply confirmed something she already knew. "At least you are finally honest," she said. She drew in a breath, looked at the children, at the helicopter, then back at him. "You have a choice now, Marcus. You can be a coward again and let us fly away. Pretend today was some strange dream at your mother's perfect party. Or you can be their father, but if you choose them, you choose them fully. No disappearing when it gets hard. No hiding behind this estate or that last name. You show up or you step aside." Before he could answer, Elizabeth found her voice. "This is insane," she snapped. "Those children are not his. They cannot be." Every guest could see the lie sitting on her face. The children were smaller, brown, and yet, somehow, they were all Marcus, copy and paste. Margaret, the friend who had stood beside Elizabeth at every charity gala for 20 years, stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "You knew about her, did you not?" she said. "That black lawyer he dated in New York." Elizabeth's cheeks flushed. "I knew he was making a mistake," she said. "I protected him." "You threatened to cut him off if he did not leave her," Margaret said. Her voice was not loud, but the lawn was so quiet it might as well have been a microphone. "We heard the whispers back then. We all did. You made him choose between love and money because she did not fit into this world." Several heads turned. A few people shifted, uncomfortable in their expensive shoes. "This is not the time," Elizabeth hissed. "This is exactly the time," Margaret answered. "We have watched you control him his whole life. Pick his school, pick his job, pick his wife. And now, on your birthday, the truth shows up in a helicopter with his eyes and a different skin tone, and you want to pretend this is some kind of scam." Destiny did not move, did not raise her voice. She did not need to. I was not a mistake, she said, looking straight at Elizabeth, and my children are not shameful. You did not protect your son. You taught him to be afraid of his own heart. Elizabeth's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. Around them, the illusion of the good family cracked. Guests who had always admired Elizabeth's poise saw, for the first time, what it cost. The system that looked so polished from the outside ran on rules that were ugly when spoken out loud. Destiny turned back to Marcus. This is not about you anymore, she said. It is about who you are going to be for them. She nodded toward the lawn where Cameron, Caleb, and Chloe stood between Angela and the helicopter, three small anchors in a sea of shaken adults. She stepped away from him and walked back down the steps, heels steady on stone. The children reached for her hands as she approached. Marcus stood frozen on the terrace, between his mother and his children, between the life he had built on fear and the one waiting on the grass. Above them, the helicopter blades began to spin again, chopping the summer air. The blades screamed overhead. Grass whipped. Chloe's curls flew around her face as she clung to Destiny's hand. On the terrace, Marcus finally moved. He looked at his mother, at the children, at the life spread out on the lawn like evidence. Then he turned his back on Elizabeth. He walked down the steps, each one cutting through 36 years of obedience, until he stood in front of Destiny and the triplets. His voice was hoarse, but it was steady. Then I choose them. It was not loud, but Elizabeth heard it. Everyone did. Something in the air shifted, like pressure before a storm. You do this, and you are no longer my son, Elizabeth said from behind him. Her voice had gone cold and sharp. No job, no trust fund, no stake in this family. You will have nothing. Marcus turned just enough to meet her eyes. I have nothing now, he said. I am just finally admitting it. He walked away from the terrace, away from the tent and the quartet, and the people who had known him as a polished accessory to his mother's power. He walked to his children. He knelt so they were eye level. I missed 5 years, he said, voice breaking. I cannot get those back. But if you will let me, I want to be here for everything from now on. All of it. Good, bad, boring, everything. Cameron studied him. Serious. Are you going to leave again? No, Marcus said. Never. Caleb grinned and threw his arms around his neck. Daddy, can we show you our room when you come to our house? Yes, Marcus said, laughing through tears. I want to see everything. Chloe just reached up and put her small hand on his cheek. You came back, she whispered. I knew you would. Behind them, Elizabeth's voice rose, brittle and wild. Get them off my property, all of them. Security, do your job. No one moved. The security staff looked at each other, then at Marcus, then quietly drifted toward the house instead of the lawn. No one was going to drag 3 children away from their father in front of 200 witnesses with phones in their pockets. 10 minutes later, the party was over. Guests slipped away murmuring. The quartet packed up their instruments. The caterers began to break down the bar. By evening, Elizabeth's 60th lay in ruins, and Marcus was driving north on I-95 with a duffel bag in the back seat and no plan. The next morning, the fallout arrived. An email from the firm, a call from legal. Mr. Richardson, per the direction of the board, your employment at Richardson Investment Group is terminated effective immediately. Your company accounts are frozen pending review. 2 hours later, a different number lit up his phone. Marcus, this is Daniel Shaw, Rebecca's attorney. She is filing for divorce. She requests an uncontested proceeding. No alimony. She will retain the Greenwich house and her assets. You retain yours. Marcus leaned against the cheap desk in his Holiday Inn room, staring at the floral bedspread and the chipped dresser. Tell her I agree to everything, he said, and tell her I hope she finds someone who tells her the truth from the beginning. He checked into a month-to-month rental in Boston 2 days later. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor walk-up, faint smell of old carpet, and someone else's cooking in the hallways. The mattress was thin. The shower whistled when it ran. He slept better than he had in years. On Saturday morning, he stood on the sidewalk in front of Destiny's brownstone, palms sweating like a teenager at a first date. At 10 o'clock exactly, the door flew open. Daddy came back. 3 sets of feet thundered down the stairs. Before he could say a word, the triplets barreled into him, nearly knocking him off the stoop. You are early, Cameron reported, proud. You said 10. It is 9:58. I did not want to be late, Marcus said. Inside, the house was controlled chaos. Pancake batter on the counter, cartoons murmuring from the living room, school photos on the walls. A life he had not built but was now being invited into. Destiny handed him a mug of coffee. "You can sit," she said, nodding toward the table where 3 plates waited, "or you can flip pancakes. Your call." He chose the spatula. Cameron chattered about a science project. Caleb described, in great detail, his entire dinosaur collection. Chloe slid a drawing across the table. "This is our family," she said. 4 stick figures smiled up at him. 3 small, 1 taller with green dots for eyes. "That is you," she added, tapping the tall one. "I started drawing you before I knew your face. I just drew eyes like mine and Cameron's." His throat closed. He nodded, unable to speak. The rest of the week was less magical. He sent out resumes to every mid-size investment firm in Boston. At first, emails came back. "We would love to meet." Then meetings were suddenly canceled. Calls were not returned. People he had known in New York stopped picking up. "You think your mother is going to just let you walk away and set up shop somewhere else," James said over the phone one night. "She has 2 billion reasons to make sure you do not embarrass her." Marcus stared at the blank wall of his apartment. "She can keep her money," he said. "I am done letting it keep me." Fridays became thin. Saturdays were full. He showed up every week at 10. For a while, Destiny only let him stay until mid-afternoon. Then she added Sunday mornings. Then a Wednesday night dinner. "Trust is a muscle," she told him once while washing dishes. "You are rebuilding it. Slowly. For them and for me." He dried plates while in the living room. Chloe curled up on his lap, fell asleep halfway through a movie. Her head rested against his chest, her small hand fisted in his shirt. "She feels safe with you now," Destiny said quietly from the doorway. He looked down at his daughter's sleeping face and felt something like grace. Month 3. A number he did not know flashed on his screen. "Mr. Richardson, this is David Chen. I own Clearwater Capital here in Boston. Small firm, big conscience. I heard about what happened in Greenwich." Marcus braced for another polite rejection. "I am not calling to blacklist you," Chen said dryly, as if reading his mind. "I am calling because it tells me something when a man walks away from a fortune for the sake of his kids. Come in tomorrow. Let's talk." The office was modest. No marble lobby, no view of the harbor, just desks, plants that needed watering, and people who looked like they actually slept at night. "I will be blunt," Chen said after flipping through Marcus's file. "You have the pedigree my clients trust. You also have a spectacular scandal my colleagues are gossiping about. Those 2 things together make you interesting." "Is that good or bad?" Marcus asked. "Depends who you ask," Chen replied. "Here, it is good. We invest in companies that treat people like humans, not numbers. I want advisors who know the cost of choosing money over people." "Sounds like you have a very personal case study." He named a number, $75,000 a year, a fraction of what Marcus used to make, enough to pay rent and buy groceries and put a little aside for the triplets' college fund someday. Marcus took the offer before Chen finished the sentence. On his first day, he arrived 20 minutes early with a second-hand briefcase and a framed photo wrapped in his laptop sleeve. He found his desk. It was small by the window, overlooking an alley and a sliver of sky. He set the frame down carefully. Cameron with a gap-toothed grin holding a soccer ball. Caleb in a T-Rex shirt, arms outstretched like he was mid-roar. Chloe in a tutu, hand on hip, smirking at the camera as if to say, "You are not ready for me." Marcus sat down, leaned back in his chair, and let out a breath he felt like he had been holding for 6 years. He had lost the house, the car, the title, the numbers that used to make people nod approvingly at cocktail parties. Looking at the 3 faces on his desk, he realized something that made his chest ache in a way that felt right for once. I lost a fortune, he thought, and gained a life. Outside, Boston went about its business. Inside, a man who had spent most of his existence being his mother's son started to learn, finally, how to be someone's father. 2 years after the helicopter carved the sky over Greenwich, Marcus's life was smaller on paper and bigger everywhere else. He was one of the most trusted advisors at Clearwater now, the guy families asked for by name. He went home to a 2-bedroom apartment in the South End, not a mansion, and 3 nights a week, those bedrooms were full of backpacks, mismatched socks, and whispered giggles. Mornings meant pancakes and lost sneakers. Afternoons meant school pickup, math homework at the kitchen table, Saturday soccer for the boys, and cramped auditorium seats for Chloe's ballet recitals. Destiny had built something new too. Jonathan, a history professor at Boston University, did not try to replace anyone. Before he proposed, he asked Marcus to meet him for coffee. "I love her," Jonathan said, "and I care about your kids. I would like your blessing." Marcus sat with the weight of the past in his chest and the future in front of him. "Treat them right," he answered. "That is all that matters. You have it." Between the three of them, they built a grown-up kind of family. Calendars shared, boundaries clear, every decision run through the same question: what is best for the kids? One evening, an email arrived from a familiar name. "Hi, Marcus. I wanted you to hear it from me. David and I are expecting a little girl. I forgive you. Our wrong marriage led me to the right person." Rebecca's words did not land like a knife this time. They landed like closure. Marcus wrote back congratulations and meant it. In Connecticut, the big house stayed standing, but the kingdom inside it had faltered. Elizabeth moved through rooms that echoed. Eventually, even she grew tired of her own voice and called her lawyer. "I would like to see my grandchildren," she said, "if they will have me." The first visit was stiff. The triplets stood in the marble foyer, hands in pockets. "Hello," she tried. "I am your grandmother." They called her that exactly. Grandmother, not grandma. Polite, distant. She did not correct them. She listened instead. She asked about school and actually heard the answers. When she started to give advice, she stopped herself. On Thanksgiving, they came again. Destiny had fed them in Boston first, so the pressure was off. After lunch, the kids ran through the garden, their laughter mixing with the wind. Elizabeth watched from the terrace, hands wrapped around a mug that had gone cold. "I once said my son would never marry a black woman," she said quietly to Marcus. "Now my only grandchildren are half black." Marcus looked at Cameron chasing Caleb between the hedges, at Chloe twirling in the middle of the lawn that used to host charity galas. "That is not a punishment, Mom," he said. "That is the only part of this story that feels like grace." She nodded, eyes wet. For the first time in her life, Elizabeth Richardson did not try to control the narrative. She just sat with what she had done and what she could still choose. On a plain Sunday in Boston, no holidays, no speeches, the real ending played out. Marcus and the kids kicked a ball around Boston Common, grass-stained knees, and shouted rules. Destiny and Jonathan shared a bench, trading stories about students and cases. Angela filmed on her phone, swearing she was just checking the light. Elizabeth arrived late, a small figure in a sensible coat, carrying a tin of cookies she had baked herself because buying them felt wrong now. She sat on the edge of the bench and watched three brown-skinned children with green eyes argue about whose turn it was to shoot. She did not call out. She did not direct. She just watched, and every so often wiped at her face when she thought no one saw. If you were standing far enough away, it would look ordinary. A family that did not match on paper, making something work in the middle of a public park. Up close, you could hear the echo of a sentence spoken in a mahogany office years before. "My son will never marry a black woman, not while I am alive." The consequences did not arrive as lightning. They arrived as empty rooms, broken trust, a boy who became a man in spite of his upbringing, and three children who almost grew up believing they were not wanted. In the end, what changed the story was not money or power. It was a series of hard choices, a son who finally chose courage over comfort, a woman who refused to let racism define her or her children, an old matriarch who sat down, shut up, and started to listen. You do not get to choose the color of your grandchildren, you only get to choose the kind of person they will remember you as. If this story hit something in you, do not let it stop when the video ends. Share it, talk about it. And if you want more stories that ask hard questions about justice, family, and the quiet ways people change, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and stay with this channel. Some echoes do not fade. We decide what they turn us into.